Welcome to this WSC Sports Insider Conversation. I'm Merav Savir from WSC, and I'm here with Lisa Ramuschkat from. Lisa, you have a lot of things in your resume. So you tell me, how do you want me to introduce you? Former athlete, TV personality, podcaster, inventor, because you have a couple of things that maybe not technologies, but, entrepreneur in a way. You tell me, how should we be introducing you on this podcast or this chat?
Well, I feel like to grasp the full bandwidth of what I'm actually doing, you can't really leave out any of it. But I have to be fair, I'm not an inventor, I'm not an entrepreneur yet. That might be somewhere in the future for me, but I'm an investor. I'm a business angel at this point. So I did invest into that's probably what you saw, the babies. That's like a baby care line, a female-led company, which is something that I really do care about to give back. There will be a third investment, and I did invest into Victoria Berlin, one of the German very cool football teams, female football teams. And yeah, apart from that, I guess I'm a little bit of everything. I am a presenter on classic traditional TV. I do host a podcast, as you said, with a female focus in sports as well. And then, things here and there, but you did very well.
Here and there is pretty influential, if I do say so myself. A little bit forward thinking with the inventor part, but let me maybe take a couple steps back and talk about something that you didn't mention here. It's the athlete part.
Oh, yeah.
You actually grew up playing field hockey. Not only grew up, you played field hockey professionally. Can you share a little bit about that experience and your time as an athlete?
Of course. I feel like this is so far back already, and I feel like I kind of, I don't want to say buried that part of my identity because it was very important and a very big part of who I am and who I was. But as I said, it's so far back, and I don't feel as connected to that part of my life anymore. But it was pretty much my whole being growing up from, how old was I? 6 all the way to 25, I think. So almost 20 years.
Wow.
Field hockey was,
It's a huge part
who
of
I
your life.
was. It is a huge part. And I mean, sometimes you just look back and realize how much it influenced you as a person now, seeing how you spend your time, as a teenager or meeting people from back in the day and like realizing how far you've come. But yeah, so field hockey and being an athlete really shaped my day-to-day life, shaped my way of thinking, my ambitions, my goals in life. Everything I wanted to be growing up was a professional field hockey player, a pro athlete, which is, a tough thing as a woman until today. We don't have to dig too deep into that. We all know the situation. And obviously, field hockey is, in the whole world, a very small sport.
Niche sport.
Very niche, yeah, unfortunately. So, probably that should have been more clear to me earlier on that this was only a very limited period of my life. But Merav, it ended very abruptly, very harshly, I would say. My coach one day said to me, Lisa, I think you're such a bad player. You will never play another game under my reign during my
Really?
tenure. And dude, my career was over from one day to the next. And it was a big identity crisis for me because my whole life organization really evolved around field hockey. So I would plan my day according to the field hockey schedule, obviously.
Of
And
course.
I really had
Not
to
only your day,
work.
you planned your entire career in a sense around field hockey.
Exactly. And
How do you
so,
how
mhm.
did you deal with that moment? Because you just blew me away with the story. It was going to be my next question of when did you had that moment that was like, okay, this career is over. I have to focus on the next one. But not only is this abrupt, this is kind of earth-shattering for an athlete who
It is.
focused on one thing her entire life.
It was horrible. And I was just about to dig into the whole process really that started afterwards. Because what happens is when your whole time, your whole thinking, your whole identity is evolved or, connected to this one thing, you really have to relearn things. I had to ask myself things like, how
Absolutely.
do I actually like to work out? What kind of sports do I like doing for fun? I figured I don't like running at all. I hate
No,
running. I like running when I know that it's for a good cause, when I'm fitter or faster on the pitch, but for fun, don't even start. Or like, do
I'm
I
with
like
you
to
on
lift
that one.
weights? Yeah, but that's stuff you never asked yourself before. It
Mhm.
was just the job, so you did it. And so that was a whole process in itself, figuring out what you like to do, and then how do you organize your free time? What do you do with your friends? All your friends are the field hockey people. Now things change. Who are your people? What do you do with the free time?
Everything you mentioned when you talked about having to figure it out, they all had to do with the sport or sports in
Yes.
general.
Yes.
Taking a step even further back from that, how do you figure out what you want to do with your life? Forget, do you like to run? Do you like to lift weights? How do you figure out what do you like outside of field hockey? How did you decide to take that next step into media? It's not a given. Not many athletes do it. Some try and aren't able to, but how did you make that decision?
So I would say that I still had this ambition in me, and because, this was a very unwanted end to things. And, I wouldn't say, or I would say even that parts of it aren't healed until today. But, this whole ambition, this whole fire that I had in me as an athlete, this whole mindset that didn't go away, right? So I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. The only thing I do know is that I do want to stay involved with sports. That's my passion. So I started looking for stuff. I was always a nerd, an eager student. So I was like, okay, let's take it to the next step. I just had finished my bachelor's, and I started applying to sports companies in Munich, really. So I just, went the normal way, kind of. And a German TV network started their expansion of their social media department back in the day. And you have to think back 13 years. Social media was nothing, Merav. There was
I
a Facebook
remember the day
page
where we had to
and there
send a
was a
text
Twitter
message in
account.
order to tweet. Do you remember those? You had to send a text message to Twitter for it to post it. That's when I started posting to Twitter.
It's
I don't know how much that
crazy.
dates me.
Nah, you're fine. You're fine. But you know what I mean. So like 13 years back,
Mhm.
social media was nothing. People in the or at the network were like laughing at us, like, okay, the nerds with their Twitter account, let's put them in the dark corner and
Let's see how
not
long that'll
not talk to
last.
them too much. Exactly. But we did last longer. And one day, Facebook approached the network and was like, "Hey guys, we're going to focus on video first, video native content. So you should start thinking of your own video formats, really." And the four guys in the team with me were like, "We're absolutely not standing in front of any camera." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I wouldn't mind. I
I
want to try
volunteer.
it." And that's kind of how it started. And I mean, it was not a linear path after that at all, but that's how the idea of becoming, or the possibility of becoming a media personality, was ingrained.
What, on a personal level, what felt most unfamiliar to you or the biggest challenges you had in these first days when you first made that switch from the pitch to the media world?
Oh man, I was lost. I had all these thoughts. I felt not enough. I didn't feel I would suffice as a person. I asked myself, who am I as a person without this whole part of my identity? And it was really tough. I felt lonely for sure because you can't talk about all those things with a lot of people, or with every friend, or only to a certain extent, because at some point people are like, okay, bro, you have to move on.
Yeah.
Um, but like looking back, and I have to be that honest. I feel like still something is hurting when I'm thinking back because it's not how I wanted things to be. But I am grateful for the experience in some way because it did start
Mhm.
this whole process of me trying to figure out who I am. And I feel like this is the thing we all have to learn in life as a
Some
person,
point.
right? We have to ask ourselves these questions: who we want to be, who we are, what do we want to stand for? And this is actually a lifelong path, a lifelong process, I think. And I'm not sure if I would have gone onto that path. if it weren't for this really hard and harsh and horrible cut.
So in a way, you have to go back and say, well, thank you for that. It wasn't what I needed at the moment, but it was a push I needed in general.
There was definitely a good thing coming out of it. Yeah.
So from that perspective, though, you said a lot that it shaped who you are, not only as an athlete, but as a person. What did you take with you from the days of being an athlete to now the days of being a media personality?
So much. And also, I miss a lot. I'm not sure. Have you ever been involved into professional sports, kind of?
Not as a professional athlete. I learned at a very young age that I am short compared to most women, and that's where my basketball career ended.
Okay, I see.
I've ventured into. I'm a very competitive person. I'm more in the CrossFit world, but I have
Oh,
not
nice.
officially. I'm not recognized as a professional athlete in any way.
Oh, well, you can be pretty professional doing CrossFit, but then you might be able to relate to what I'm about to say because what I'm missing until today, what nothing can give you in life, I feel, the way sports can give you, is the camaraderie and the belonging to a team, the connection you have with your teammates, and I feel very interesting and cool balance between friendship and the closest friendship you'll ever experience, and at the same time, competition with the same person. And that's really cool. And the things that I learned are really the values everyone knows that sports stand for, and that's hard work. That's even going beyond your limit, beyond what you think is possible for you and for your body and for your mind, and um, yeah, really setting goals and being able to work towards those, and sometimes even following like a higher goal or a longer path than you think is possible, or than the short term goal that's right in front of you. Yeah, and really resilience, and that everything goes and comes in waves. Yeah, and really that it's all in your own or that everything is your own responsibility. If you want to be
Mhm.
part of something, you have to put in the work. If you want to be on top of something, that's on you. Um, you can't really find excuses on the way. You can, but then you can't be mad at yourself or at whoever for not reaching your goals either.
And I think a lot of this can also be taken to the field that you're now working in, right? Because how many kids have grown up saying, I want to work in sports, I want to talk about sports, I want to be on TV, but it doesn't mean that everyone can make it in these fields. So, how do you see, or let me maybe phrase this differently, what are the goals that you set for yourself as this sports reporter, a TV personality, that you think that you've been able already to achieve, to reach? And if we look at it even further, do you have any goals that are you've set for yourself?
That's an interesting question, and I'm hoping I'm not getting too deep, or I'm not answering too philosophically. Because that's something I had to learn over the years, really. Because in this job, you have to be aware that you can work as hard as you want to, or you possibly can, and you put in everything you have within your power. But eventually, the decision always lies in the hands of, not trying to make a point here, but in the hands of a white man.
Hmm.
It's someone else's decision if you get the job or not, even
Hmm.
if you're independent or freelance, if the way I am. So you have to be careful about setting goals because you can only do so much to get there. And so
Hmm.
I switched my goal setting. I would say I did in 2024, so only recently, into the real goal here is to just grow as a person, to be
Hmm.
as honest and radically honest with myself as I can be. Like, we all know the feeling that you're like, yeah, okay, that wasn't so good, but it doesn't really matter. No,
Yes.
everything matters actually. If you're an ambitious person and trying to become the professional you want to become, and you can't let stuff slip.
Hmm.
So I just want to grow as a person. I want to expand my network. I want to expand on an academic level. I want to yeah, just make sure that I have fun along the way, that I don't become bitter or too, like cramped up or too narrow-minded on things. Um, and just make sure that I work with great people because I really learned whatever job you think you want to do, let's say something the Europeans will understand, like I want to work during the Champions League final or something. If you
Mhm.
don't work with great people, you won't enjoy the experience.
Even
So,
if it's your dream job. And I think that's relevant for any career, if I may.
yeah, of course you may. Yeah, I really do think so. So, yeah, goal setting has changed for me, and it's more kind of a personal growth kind of thing. And whatever, I decide that I want to grow in, that's really the next step that I want to do. And I still, would love to be part of the Football World Cup next year. I would still love to, I don't know, have my own TV show at some point, but you can't fixate on those things so much because you will lose the passion, you will lose your fire, you will become frustrated because of, people who just decide, no, we need, I don't know, you're brown haired, so we need a blonde person today. And you feel like you can't, and those are
Yeah,
things
but
that happen.
I'm not going to look good as a blonde, so we're not going to go there.
No, but you know what I mean. And those are
Yeah.
things, it's entertainment. People set
Hmm.
up their casts in a certain way. So it's fine if they just choose this person for whatever reason, but you can't connect your happiness to those things.
And of course, everything that is done in the sports world is about entertainment, but there's also a lot of storytelling. So I want to focus a
Yes.
little bit about storytelling within your work. You worked for the DFL, for Bayern Basketball. You've reported on EuroLeague, Sky. What did you learn along the way at each one of these stops in your career about storytelling that you take with you on the day to day?
Mm, very, very different things. And I feel now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I learned more about storytelling outside of TV, really. So, as I said, my background or my career started in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like storytelling has even more of a origin really in social because you can 100% create yeah, really create your own story, or every athlete can at this point. And I mean, of course, storytelling has its place in TV and looking at certain, videos or closed stories within a whole show. It's all about storytelling, but I do feel that it's a very personal thing, and that yeah, you really have to make sure in this crazy world that you tell and shape your story the way you want it to, and it's hard work. It's hard work.
Yeah. And so you're mentioning obviously a lot of storytelling coming from social media, and it's only growing and expanding and changing and evolving with different
Hmm.
generations. And we're seeing fans spend more and more time on social media, more and more time watching vertical content that's consistent and continuous and never ending at all times of night.
Shorter and shorter.
Exactly. How is that? How do you see that shift as someone who is so immersed in sports, and is, you're doing the storytelling on TV, you're doing the storytelling in social media. How are you seeing this shift?
Both good and bad, and both very interesting. And in German, you say Horizont erweitern, so kind of like horizont widening,
Okay.
widening. Um, because it's really what's driving the world at this point, I feel.
Hmm.
There's no TV network today that doesn't heavily rely on the socials. And, all the subscription-based models that we do see in TV right now are supported by the stories that they, expand into the social world, into the free social media world where they reach everyone.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's interesting, but it's demanding, as I say, and it can be so tough if you decide to be in it and decide to be a part of it, because it's everyone who has a social media account knows how long it can take to only post one piece of
One piece of content.
content.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean,
It's.
and then that's a very general statement here as well, right? It takes
Mhm.
probably I don't know, a lot less to post one picture than to cut a full video because that's a whole nother job if we're being really honest, right? I'm a presenter. I'm not a creator. And then I do need to be a creator though somehow
You're a
and
creator
an
in a way.
editor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're not the creator in the literal sense that everyone has kind of grown to understand creators, but you are a creator in your own way.
And then you actually kind of have to be at this point, right? Because more and more creators are coming into the traditional media space and are replacing the traditional media personalities as well. So it's all emerging together, really.
When you look at the DACH region, Germany, Austria, with all these changes, the always on content, who do you see that is doing it well? Whether it's channels, media outlets, creators, individuals, is there anyone that you've pinpointed and said, you can say they do a great job at doing this. They're reaching their audiences that they want. They're reaching multiple generations of audiences, which we all know is tough to do because they're each very different.
Oh, interesting. For sure. So I have different approaches to this answer. So the first thing will be off sports. And there are two girls in Germany who I admire for their path, really. One girl is called Ann-Kathrin Schmitz. She's actually the brain behind one of Germany's biggest influencers, Farina Opoku. And she really explains how social media is so much more about content these days and not about pretty superficial pictures. You really have to give them something that they can, yeah, like a value that they
Substance.
can, exactly, substance. And so that's what I admire her for, and she's very explanatory about many things. And then there's another girl. Her name is Stefanie Dechant. She is really a rising star in the social media world. She just started, I think, 3 years ago, and she is conquering the let's say automotive space.
There's
She's
also a very
young.
growing space after Drive to Survive hit
Yes,
Netflix.
yes. And she's a young woman of color, and we all know that this space is also very male dominated. And she's doing the same thing, and she's combining aesthetics with substance. Great word that you gave me there. Thanks again. So those are two creators that I really admire. But then in the sports industry, I would suggest everyone check out Transfermarkt, a global brand at this point as well. I just hosted the TikTok Sports Summit in Germany, and they basically, yeah, showed or presented their social media strategy, and it's crazy. They have basically one person to do social media, and they're insanely successful with a very simple approach. And they just, understand their audience perfectly, and therefore, yeah, can produce the perfect product for the people that are consuming their infos.
You mentioned two women outside of sports who are building their brand, talking about that from their perspectives. If we talk about it from within the sports world, obviously many, I don't want to say only younger athletes, I think also older athletes, if we take a look at LeBron James, have learned how to build their persona and building themselves out on social media and social platforms. What do you think they need to take into consideration about the impact and what they can do on social media in terms of building their brand and how it can advance them?
You mean older athletes?
Athletes in general,
Athletes.
I think it's one
Oh,
of the things that people like to put that with the younger athletes that they're building their brands, but it's not all the younger athletes.
I feel it's like a very interesting discussion because if we're being honest, everyone has to do it, and especially athletes from niche sports. But for example, I just hosted the field hockey European Championship this summer, and everyone in this community, and rightfully so, is pushing for more visibility and more, airtime and all of that. And I figured, preparing for the job, that most of the athletes have closed Instagram accounts. And I was like, guys, this is interesting. So you're pushing for, and at the end of the day, we're pushing for more money, for more rights to be able to live a life as a pro athlete. But that's part of being a pro
It's a
athlete.
big
And I
part
think
of
that
it.
that's, your responsibility. There's no one who's going to come to you and give you a professional Instagram account. That's on you. That's on every single person. And especially older athletes who keep saying things like, yeah, but I don't identify with it, or I'm not a creator. And sometimes I say those things as well. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not an influencer, you know? Yeah, and that's being being radically honest with yourself. Yeah, but do you want to be part of the game? Then this is what you have to do. And not everything of a job is something that you like. And you just have to do the math, really. Do you want to be relevant? Then that's a part of what you have to do. So to all the niche athletes, open your Instagram accounts and start doing the work.
That's step number one.
Yes.
So let's talk about building your own brand. In 2019, you launched Team Lisa. It's your media outlet talking about women's stories on your own terms. Can you share more about this decision to do that? What led to it? How did those first days look?
Oh, interesting. So again, it was another, let's say, critical moment that led to the decision of doing my own thing. Because what people told me a lot in those early days of my career was like, you have to be yourself on TV, on camera, just be the way you would be with your friends. And this one thing that I tend to do is, because I just think very bilingually, I always throw in an English word. And people would be like, yeah, be yourself, but don't talk like that. Be yourself, but don't use these words. And I was like, but then I have to stop and actually find the right word, and then there won't be a flow in how I speak. So you're saying be yourself, but don't really be yourself. And so I
Only
really
to a certain
longed.
point.
Exactly. And I was like, okay, so I really want a space where I can talk the way I want, where I can ask the questions that I want without anyone being like, oh, but that was a stupid question, or you should have asked that, or that was too tactical and not lifestyle-y enough. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing. And at the beginning, I actually thought I would need a product with male athletes. If I want to be successful, I need reach, I need attention, and so I need male athletes. And as things developed, I was like, but I don't want to do that. I want a platform
It's
for
not you.
those who are unheard. I want a platform for those who everyone's, looking down upon. And that's how Team Lisa started, really.
And throughout this time, you've hosted a lot of athletes, women from sports who have gone through transformations themselves as well. What patterns do you see in women in making these transformations? Are there patterns in women making these transformations?
There are definitely patterns, but I wouldn't, bring it down to female athletes, but it's something that I see in just girls and women everywhere. It's really striking, I would say, that so many women lack inherent confidence and self-belief. And I'm so tired of it. I don't want to hear this anymore. And athletes, I feel that's maybe another pattern, or, just something that naturally comes with the environment of pro sports, a high consequential environment. They find a way to push through. They find a way to do it anyways. They find a way to do it scared. And that's something I admire, and I really, would like to spread across the world and tell every little girl, like, we're all scared. Nobody you see on TV is better or stronger. They just found a way to work around it. And there's so much joy and so much, and there's so much good on the other side of fear, really. And I just really want, and that's why Team Lisa still exists today, that, one girl who's looking for this kind of inspiration has a place to actually find it.
And you've dove into other areas of sports as well, like you mentioned the Victoria Berlin Project. You're an angel investor. How is taking this sort of ownership side of the business, how has that changed the way you look at media rights, storytelling, the business of sport? Have you seen an effect since, kind of taking that step over this line and how you tell stories and how you look at sports?
Yeah, for sure. I just realize more and more how underrepresented women are and how bad, especially in Germany. Of course, my view on things is very German.
It's
But
local.
yeah, how bad things are, especially here. But it's a cultural thing as well. I'm not sure if people are aware, but Germany is one of the lowest ranked countries in Europe when it comes to the gender pay gap. And we,
Mhm.
take this very big role on the global stage in terms of economics and politics and whatever, but we even can't make sure that our women are okay, that our women are in a proper position in the labor force. So, coming back to the question, excuse the detour. Yeah, it definitely
An
has
important
changed
detour, nonetheless.
how I see women's representation in the sports business, and it's definitely one of my biggest drivers wanting to change that. And it's making me take certain steps for my future to make sure that things are changing and that I'm part of this change. Because as I just said, it's on every athlete to open their Instagram account. It's on someone taking responsibility and really wanting to make the change. So that's who I want to be.
So let's take a look at the future. And I sort of have a two-pronged question. One from the general fan point of view and one from the women's point of view. Obviously, a lot of steps that you're taking as a media personality, as an angel investor and owner, are to improve women's sports.
Yes.
Where do you see that going in the next couple of years?
So it's
And
so
how can
interesting what's
storytelling
happening.
push it forward?
So we need, yeah, okay. We need storytelling, first of all, and this is on everyone to do it. Every fan out there has to make sure that they're sharing stories, that they're maybe taking their girlfriend or their, mother or whoever to a game of football or basketball and just make sure that women feel more comfortable in these spaces. Because the more women come to watch games, the more they will support other women because representation matters. And I'm sure, Marav, that you've experienced this as well. Seeing a successful woman does something to me, does something probably to
Absolutely.
you. You see things that are possible for yourself. So we need to make sure the storytelling is present, the storytelling gets it right to make sure that the next generation doesn't doesn't struggle in this way.
And
And
that's
then
also
what's
something that the sports media, sports organizations are responsible for, of putting women at the forefront to show these women. I mean, you see it, I think, in the WNBA right now that there's more women, powerful women coming in, generating discussions. But now you need to translate that to other sports and other countries around the world so that young girls see those women.
100%. And what's happening in Germany right now? Again, the German point of
The
view. I hope
German
that's
angle.
fine. Angle, but what's happening here at this very moment is giving me so much hope. So first of all, and of course, again, that's a very subjective thing, but it's still historic. Victoria Berlin was able to close an investment from one of the biggest female-led US VCs. It's called Monarch Collective, and it's the VC that's also invested in Angel City FC. So the first female founded football club of its kind. And so a US investor coming into German football, securing a potential ascent to the first league really makes a huge difference and can actually be, the engine and the driver for other clubs to see what's possible if you're actually committed to supporting the ladies. And you can actually see in everything Victoria does really how legit of a business case this is. This is not
Mhm.
just welfare. This is not just fun. This is legit business and you can make money here. And you've been ignoring this side of not only the industry, but the whole society really. And if you're not being made, you've not, wait, tripping here. You've not been making, here we go, products for these fans. So that's one thing. And then the second thing that's very interesting in Germany right now is the Women's Football League have kind of revolted and created their own DFL. It hasn't been there before.
Okay.
The German Football Women's League has been directly connected to the DFB, the German Football
Hmm.
Association, and it has been limiting their possibilities to market themselves. And now with this new funded FBL, that's what it's called, they're going to be able to actually properly do their marketing the way the men have been able to do the same thing with the DFL for years.
And that
So
way, putting themselves more on the stage, being able to tell the stories they want to tell.
this is groundbreaking. So there are great steps being made in Germany right now, across Europe as well, but I don't want to over talk too much, but you know what I'm saying. I am very hopeful. I am seeing, yeah, groundbreaking and trailblazing steps being made, and I'm hopeful that we're seeing more of those changes in the future.
I am right there with you in that sense. And then, last question, if we take it to a grander scale, step back from women's sports, but also sports in general, fan experiences within sports, having been in the industry and seen how they changed over the last 13 years since Twitter was a text message till today, where everyone's so hooked on their phones,
Yeah.
if you can imagine what the ideal fan experience will be like in 5 years around, for example, a match day, what do you envision?
So first of all, I envision two very different experiences depending on if you're visiting a men's game in whatever sport or a women's game. I feel like the men's experience, especially if we're thinking football, will not change too much because I feel like football or a life shared experience will always be something that people share so much. People want to keep things offline as much as possible, at least German football fans here. They don't want too much innovation. They don't even want, halftime shows, whatever. Keep it simple. We
Keep
want
it.
our beer. We want our bratwurst. That's all we want here. We want to chant, we want to cheer, and then go home and be excited for the next week. But what I envision for women's fans experience, that will be so interesting to see because that's something nobody has really worked with yet.
Mhm.
And we haven't discovered its full potential and not played with it at all. It could be, from matcha over a nail tech over I don't know, a boozy brunch for ladies, I don't know, for bottomless mimosas, over, I don't know, Sephora activations. We've seen those in the WNBA, Sephora bags flying from the ceiling, really. Um, yeah, and I feel like female sports fans or sports fans of female sports are way more open and they are yearning for different experiences, for a different experience. They want less alcohol, they want less like violence. What's really something that male sports fans are yearning for as well. That's like their outlet for certain things. And that's not what's happening in female arenas, or you know what I'm saying. So that's actually going to be the more interesting case to observe in the future, I would say.
And to make sure that it has its own voice to create its own experiences, right? That it's not a copy paste.
Can't be, won't be.
All right. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us for this interview. It's been really eye-opening in a sense because, you talk a lot about women's sports, but hearing it from your perspective, the journey that you did as an athlete into what it is that you're doing today, I think it's very different from other perspectives that we've seen, and we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much, Merav, for the opportunity to share my story, and thank you for giving other women a stage. I appreciate you.
It's our pleasure.